We are getting ready to go live. So I am going to go back to our view here of everyone. There we go. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Marcy Cleveland with Hudson Valley Green Homes. And today we're going to sidestep a bit from our normal conversations talking about sustainable housing topics. And instead we're going to focus on another industry that has their own green revolution going on, and that's transportation, but more specifically electric vehicles. And to help us with this topic, we have a great team of experts that's going to get us through this discussion. So I'm just going to introduce everybody. First of all, we have Seth Leitman, who is also known as the Green Living Guy. He's the program manager for Hudson Valley, the Drive Electric Hudson Valley program. We have Samrat Pathania, who is with the new Paltz Climate Coalition. And we have 14-year-old Nolan Brown, who is our safety guru and future EV engineer, and he also happens to be my son. So why don't each one of you say a little bit about yourselves and your background? Go ahead.
Who wants to go first? Me? I guess.
Go ahead, Seth.
Let's see. Well, I used to work for the Power Authority and for NYSERDA on electric vehicles. I did NYSERDA from 98 till 2000, and then from 2000 to 04, I worked at the Power Authority doing electric vehicles. After that, started a business or two, and then worked with McGraw-Hill to write a line of books called Green Guru Guides. One of them is Build Your Own Electric Vehicle, and it did so well, it got a third edition. I wrote the second, so did the third. And then I have a company called ETS Energy Store, which is energy efficiency, transportation, and sustainability. And we do consulting services. So I'm managing the programs for Drive Electric for both Sustainable Westchester and for now, Sustainable Hudson Valley. And I got power walls and solar. I don't
Excellent. Know. All right, Samrat.
Hi, I'm Samrat. I'm a member of the new Paltz Climate Action Coalition. I am a local teacher. I teach at the Walkill High School. I teach physics, mathematics, and computer programming. I grew up in India and I studied engineering there. And I graduated in 2002 from my engineering program. It's such a shame that there were no real EVs on the market then. Like, I always wanted to go into automobiles, but I lost interest because there was nothing like this. So I sometimes just wish that I had graduated in 2010 and Tesla was on the scene. I would have come from India straight to Fremont, California. But here I am. I love EVs. I drive one. I love helping my friends buy electric cars. And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Nolan?
Hi, I'm Nolan. I guess you can consider a safety expert. I have a strong interest in engineering electric vehicles, and I'm a huge Tesla fanboy.
And I'm sure that's going to come out in our discussion.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Keep that in mind. There's a little bit of bias there. All right.
Just a little.
So great, we're gonna dive right in. We have a lot of material to cover in an hour, and I just know that in the conversations that I've had with all three of these guys, they are really hard to keep on track. So
yes.
we're gonna dive right in, like I said. So, you know, a few years ago, there wasn't a lot going on in the EV market, or it wasn't certainly as a big of a topic as it is now. You may have heard about Teslas, maybe the Chevy Bolt, a Leaf. You know, even like 5 years ago, the big eco-friendly car that I always heard about was the Prius. But now, if you look, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturers jumping in on this game, and there are a lot of models to consider, and it's kind of confusing, I think, for consumers who are interested in possibly getting an EV. And so I think it's really important that we start with some definitions of exactly the types of electric vehicles that are out there. So I'm going to start our slideshow. Give me just a second to get that going. And we are going to get to our first slides. Everybody see that original slide? All right. All right, here we go. Who wants to take it away? All right.
I can try and help out. So,
Okay.
so there are three types of electrified vehicles. There's the the light hybrid that we're talking about, but it's not an electric car. Then you have a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is part hybrid, but a good portion electric when you start off. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 50 miles. It's 53 was the most I ever got out of one of them. And then you have the pure battery electric vehicle, like a Tesla, Chevy Bolt, Nissan Leaf, Kia Niro, all of them. So that's the three types.
Right. I just wanted to add that the plug-in electric vehicle, that, like Seth said, you could get say 30 or 50 miles of, but that's pure electric range. As soon as that happens, it moves seamlessly to the regular gas engine or some sort of a hybrid engine, and it's and then you drive it like you would drive a gasoline car. So it's not like you go 30 miles and your car is dead. No, you keep running. That's important.
Right. A plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, that's why it's PHEV, will immediately take you from all electric to a hybrid, and it's seamless, as Samrat was saying, to the point where it's just it just happens. There's no switch, there's no jolt, there's no nothing. It just immediately goes straight to hybrid, and you're good to go.
Now, I know that when we were talking about these different types, Samrat, you were really kind of hard on the whole straight hybrid vehicle as not being an EV. Why is that?
I think the key, I mean, hybrids are great vehicles, and like you were saying, that the Toyota Prius was really an incredible vehicle that moved so many people towards higher fuel efficiency, and we continue to see that in the whole the whole automobile industry, the move towards hybrids. But I think the problem here that we're trying to tackle is we want lower greenhouse gas emissions. That can only happen if we burn less fossil fuels for transportation. A hybrid vehicle, though a hybrid vehicle can be very efficient, it's still using a fossil fuel to drive itself around. And that's why I'm hard on it, because where we, like you said, Marcy, where we are right now, there's so many options, and the options continue to grow with plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles, that when somebody says, I'm going to go for a hybrid vehicle as if it's like groundbreaking stuff, then I have to stop them.
It was 20 years ago.
I wanted to compliment that, Samrat, that has anybody seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger video PSA that he did about electric cars? And there's this guy standing there in front of this fake auto dealer who's Arnold, right, dressed up, and the guy goes, I don't know, thinking about a fuel efficient car, I don't know, maybe a hybrid. And Arnold goes, what the is wrong with you? Literally, like, the hybrid is just not, I mean, it's a great segue for somebody who might have doesn't even know an electric car, but then you start going, well, I want it to be faster, and then you start realizing that okay, you can get a plug-in hybrid, but then you hear that the electric is faster and more efficient, so then it's like one step at a time, really. And I think the question always is, like, as we'll go through the slides, I think we'll see that if it's really about, if you're serious about the transition, then we've got to skip the hybrids if we can. But I think it'll become clear as we talk more about the different options now.
And
I basically wrote a story. I'll be quick. I wrote a story recently saying that every car should now not be hybrid. Before it used to be, in the early 2000s, I was writing every car should be a hybrid. Now I'm writing every car should be a plug-in hybrid at this point.
So you almost see as the hybrid becoming the new gas car.
Yes.
Yes, because it is a gas car.
With a battery backup.
It's just a more efficient
battery backup,
car. Yes, right.
but it's
All
the
right, so
least
let's
preferred,
move
yeah.
on to, let's talk about battery electric. All right. Nolan, you put together this chart.
Yes. Why don't you talk about it, Nolan? Yeah.
All
Go
right,
for it.
so the newest, I guess you could say the newest type of EV is battery electric. So there's no tailpipe emissions coming out of that thing. So, and the fuel cost is very low, savings up to $1,000 a year in comparison to gas cars. A lot of models now, like the Leaf and the Tesla and the Bolt, have over 200 miles of range. You can charge at home, wake up with a full charge every single day, and they have a very, very smooth and quiet drive compared to an equivalent gasoline vehicle. Some drawbacks: the initial purchase price is higher. Some models, such as the Ioniq, have ranges under 200 miles, and charging times can be upwards of an hour for a full charge, even on what's considered a fast charger. But some different models, like newer Teslas, on their what's called a version 3 charger, can get about 80% in under 30 minutes, which is really good and very, very fast.
So I have a question for you, Nolan. How can having a vehicle with more than 200 miles of range be both a pro and a con? Why do you think that is?
So vehicles that have more than 200 miles of range will be able to go on longer road trips without as much charging. And as battery costs come down, you start seeing more and more of those. But if you have under 200 miles of range, you'll be charging more and more, and it makes less sense if you have longer daily drives to go on. So say
I want to add. Yeah. Sorry.
Say your daily commute is about 150 miles. That 200 miles is starting to push it.
Right, and it's like when we think of this, I'm just want to add to what Nolan said in terms of that the range aspect of it, that it really depends on what we need. If my daily needs are really for a car that should drive around 160, 170 miles, which a Hyundai Ioniq will do, and I end up buying a Tesla Model 3 long range with over 300 miles of range, what I'm doing is I'm lugging around this extra battery every day, and I paid money for it up front. So one has to really be careful and think hard about what their personal needs are, and then matching it up with the car in question. So 200 miles of range are great, but you may not need it. Like our second car in the family, we have a Model 3 and a Leaf, and the Leaf is only 150 miles, but it's much cheaper and it's perfect for our in-town driving. So that's what I would say, that there is no one size fits all here when it comes to battery sizes.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of these BEVs.
So there's the lineup is getting bigger and bigger as the years go on. There's quite a few popular automakers this year coming out with full electrics, such as Volvo, Volkswagen, and Ford. So your sedans will be made up of the Hyundai Ioniq, Tesla Model 3, Tesla Model S, and Polestar 2. Polestar is a sub-brand of Volvo, so they're not just some new car maker. They've been part of Volvo for about 20 years. Your SUVs, you have the Hyundai Kona Electric, Tesla Model Y, Tesla Model X, Volvo XC40 Recharge, Audi e-tron, Volkswagen ID4, Jaguar I-Pace, Ford Mustang Mach-E. And those models with the little asterisk, those are not currently for sale at this point, but they are expected to be at dealerships later this year. So for hatchbacks,
Nolan.
you have,
hey, Nolan.
but
I'm going to stop you from reading the list only because we have a lot to cover, and I think everybody can read what's there. And what's more impressive is that just this list is as big as it is, right? I think that's really the key here, is that, wow, we're finally getting some choices.
And it's
Yeah, and
and
you're
my-
going to see you
Right.
will see more and more choices coming down the line. Just to give people perspective and things that have not been announced fully, but people should put their heads on thinking about is that effective now, because this car companies are starting to go back into production now.
Mhm.
Okay, Ford has finally released their Escape plug-in hybrid. So there's an Escape plug-in hybrid that will be hitting the dealerships now, and also the RAV4 will become a plug-in hybrid option also. So you're having two different plug-in hybrids now hit the market, as well as all of these electrics too, which is exciting. And something else that I'll announce too is that Ford on their Mustang Mach-E,
Mhm.
their first round of sales, they are already sold out. So, which is unbelievable. And if people have heard too about Tesla's Cybertruck, there's 200,000 deposits, which is around the same amount that the Model 3 was. So if anybody lives in New York, they're going to be seeing the Cybertruck without question, because there were a lot of Model 3s that drove around here, in my area at least, once the Model 3 started coming out. So get ready, folks. They're coming.
That's
and-
great.
Right.
For you.
And that's a perfect segue into our plug-in hybrid pros and cons there, because like you mentioned, the offerings just keep increasing. And
Yeah.
it's not a question, like if somebody thinks I don't have an option right now, it's probably that they're not looking hard enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of used plug-in hybrids on the road. For example, and I'll give one example. Some discontinued models like the Cadillac ELR, which is a nicer looking version interior-wise and exterior than the Chevy Volt. Same company, right? I'm seeing them for around $9,000,
And that used to be like,
$9,500 on Cars.com. I'm seeing Chevy Cadillac ELRs as low as $9,500.
and
to
these
up
were
to
originally
around
$100,000 cars.
What was that on?
These were originally about $100,000.
Yes, some of the one I test drove at the back when, I think the Maroni, which is the sticker, said it was around $89,500 when I test drove it, and that was base.
Wow. So let's look at the plug-in hybrid a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
Anyway.
I got it. So the plug-in hybrids, just so we're aware, can go from the active hybrids, like from BMW, are about 12 to 17 miles of all electric. It's more about a blended hybrid for them, plug-in hybrid. Then you have like a Chevy Volt, which is 53 miles all electric. Then it goes into hybrid. You have the Prius Prime now, which is about the same, 53 miles all electric, and then it goes straight to hybrid. And I think you're going to start to see that also going forward for the RAV4 plug-in hybrid as well. So you get these amazing levels of range. I know with Hyundai and Kia, it's around 32, 33 miles, and then it goes all electric, but they're extremely fuel efficient hybrids as well. So you're looking at between 10 to 53 miles all electric, and then it goes straight into hybrid.
I just wanted to add here that this is from my landlady's experience, and this, if you go back to the slide before with the pros and cons of PHEVs.
Yeah, good idea.
Right. When she was convinced that she wanted a plug-in hybrid, she wasn't ready to go to a all-electric. And we talked about some of the pros there, like being cheaper than the gas equivalent, because she bought a Prius Prime, and with the incentives it was cheaper, and like tax and she was getting a certain range with it, and I kept trying to push her towards buying a Chevy Volt. Now the difference between a Prius Prime and a Chevy Volt was Chevy Volt had twice the all-electric range, about 53, and the Prius Prime is around 25, 26. And I kept pushing her, and she felt that, oh, Chevy isn't that good. Chevy isn't as good as a Toyota. But, and they are, the Volts are really nice cars. But now that she's bought the Prime, she wishes that she'd bought a car with a greater all-electric range, because she has so much fun driving when it's all-electric. So that's something to really consider. You might say, oh, I only need 16 miles of all-electric range. But once you start driving it on electric, you don't want to drive it off electric. Something to keep in mind.
We have a comment. We have a comment that just came in from Ed Norris. Says the Prius Prime is 25 miles of EV range, then 50 plus MPGs thereafter. The Hyundai Ioniq PHEV is 29 miles of EV range, then similar gas efficiency thereafter.
Right. Yes. And I think the Ioniq is the better offering now. I mean, Hyundai has really come a long way. And I think I personally, if somebody really is going for a plug-in hybrid, then I push them towards the Ioniq instead of a Prius Prime, because they're very similarly priced, and the Ioniq offers just a little bit more.
All right. Should we go back to the slide that has the different options?
Sure. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can see a pretty substantial amount there.
Yeah. And this is not comprehensive. Like, there's no way we can list all the plug-in hybrids.
No, there's way more than this.
Right. Yes. And that's exciting. That is really exciting, because like I was telling you, Marcy, yesterday, that when I bought my first EV, which was a plug-in hybrid, the Chevy Volt, I didn't have that many options in 2015. Like, most of these things actually did not exist then. And that was my option. And now it's just so much more exciting, a menu to choose from. It's amazing.
Yeah, like Volvo, almost their entire lineup is now plug-in.
Right.
And then you're seeing a lot of options come up from Ford and BMW.
Right.
Yeah.
We have another comment from Ed. And Ed says, only the Honda Clarity and Chevy Volt have long range as EVs, 47 and 53 miles respectively.
Right.
Yeah.
The Toyota RAV4 PHEV will do 38 miles all EV.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this is a question, I mean, with the ranges, it all comes down to, in a way, like your lifestyle. Because when I bought the Volt in 2015, it was the first generation. So it only had around 35 miles all electric. And that was perfect for me, because I had a 30-mile commute. So most days, most of the time, I could just do on an all electric. So that's a question to consider. That's something people should ask themselves. What does my driving look like on the average day? And then you can size the battery of your car if you're thinking about a plug-in hybrid. Because as far as the climate is concerned, the solution doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it'd be beautiful to go to zero fossil fuels, but we don't have to go to zero just yet. If we could reduce it by 70%, 80%, that's wonderful. That's job done.
Yeah, and a lot of these plugins on the federal EPA standard, out of a scale of 1 to 10, almost every single one is getting a 10 out of 10 in terms of emission.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of these cars, like I have the federal website pull up, most of them get like $5,000-$6,000 federal tax credits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Very
oftentimes these might be just cheaper outright than something that's not plug-in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to, I'm going to bring up a point, and that you're probably going to jump past later in the conversation. But when it comes to tax credits, a lot of people think that like with this administration that tax credits went away for electric cars. That's not the
They
case. That's the farthest thing from the case. What has happened only is what the law said, which was that up to 200,000 cars, it goes down and goes away. So Teslas have that tax credit issue, but any Chevy Bolt, any Hyundai Ioniq, any of these cars we're talking about, we're not even close to 200,000 cars.
I'm pretty sure the Bolt went through it though.
No, I think
No.
Chevy expired. Chevy's expired in April
Chevy?
because they, right.
Yep, they did.
Because I think I mean, unfortunately, with the way this tax credit was designed, it penalizes the front runners, the ones that have done the best. And
Yes,
that in this
yes.
case have been the two American manufacturers, Tesla and GM.
Right.
So maybe we need to take a look again at this. But like you're saying, Seth, it hasn't gone away. There's still a lot of incentives out there.
And
Yeah,
the
I mean,
other thing,
Hyundai, Kia, Honda, anybody who's gotten an all electric going forward, you know, that claimed it under the federal, before the deadline,
Right.
they've got 200,000 cars that they can move. And some of these car companies, they did 1 or 2 or 3 models before the 200,000. You know, so we've got a lot of options here, people. Don't think that you're like, oh, there's no money. There's no federal tax incentive. That's the farthest from the truth.
Yeah.
So I just want people to be aware of that. So, okay.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Seth. And we do have a slide about incentives, and we can touch on that a little bit.
I just wanted to bring it up. I had to let people know.
All right, I'm gonna have to reel you back in. All right, so quick, before we move on, hybrids, just straight hybrids, let's just touch on them and then we'll keep going.
Right.
They're not
I'm happy to
electric.
talk. Yes. But I mean, like, I think we've already touched upon most of these points, Marcy, earlier.
Mhm.
If somebody
I
still
agree.
feels, right, if somebody still feels that, you know what, I'm not ready for this electric revolution, then please buy a hybrid. At least buy a hybrid. That's all I would say. But if you think you're not ready for the EV revolution, I think you haven't thought hard enough. That's all I'll say.
yeah.
All right, so, all right, Nolan, we're gonna turn the safety aspect over to you. You know, one of my biggest questions is that these manufacturers, they're making a lot of new cars, and are they building them on tried and true platforms that they know are safe? I mean, how do they know that these cars are going to be safe?
So, I'll just bring this back to Tesla because they're one of the most common automakers. Most new car makers have in-house crash testing, and they also will run computer sims. So these cars are safe before they even get tested by the government to meet the standard. So then you have third-party testing, such as the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, and they rate. They have a series of different tests that they rate on, and those manufacturers usually do that in-house first. So EVs, at least one's built from the ground up as an electric vehicle, like a Tesla, because it wasn't built on a gas platform like an Ioniq or a Kona. So it has the battery on the floor, and the motors are pushed inwards, so they don't have this massive motor in the front, which gives you a longer crush zone. And that alone will reduce the forces put on the occupants in the car if in the event of a crash. For side crashes, since the EVs have their batteries on the floor, that leads to loads being passed through a larger area, which also increases structural rigidity and will decrease deformation. And since the electric vehicles have a low center of gravity, due to their batteries being mounted so low, and an evasive maneuver, such as an elk test where you swerve going at about 45 miles an hour, these electric cars stay planted to the ground much better than a gasoline car would. And since they have that lower center of gravity, they are significantly less likely to flip over. So some of the misconceptions that people may have is EVs will catch on fire in an accident. This simply isn't really true anymore. Tesla put out a study and they found out that a gasoline equivalent car is about 11 more times likely to catch on fire than a Tesla would. And a lot of these EVs now have these glass roofs. And people think, oh, glass is weak. You hit glass and it shatters. Well, the glass being used is tempered. So it's 2 layers of glass sandwiched in between plastic. And that alone adds so much structural reinforcement that if you compare it to even a car with the strongest steel on that roof, the Tesla's still stronger because of that glass. So the glass actually makes it stronger than just like an aluminum or sheet metal.
That's great. And Nolan, do you remember, like, I believe it was the Model X when they were testing the Tesla Model X. I believe they weren't able to flip it during the test.
Nope, they were not.
They were not able to flip that car over. And that's incredible.
Even though these rollover chances make up about 5% of total crashes, they make up about 25% of death and serious injury. So even if you can reduce that by just a little bit, your chances of dying in an accident are significantly lower.
Right.
Another thing I forgot to bring up is weight. Electric cars typically weigh more. So going against a fixed object that might be a little bit of a disadvantage, but because they have those longer crush zones, that's not necessarily such an issue. But you have this Model X that weighs 5,000 pounds, and you're comparing it to a car like a Subaru Ascent that weighs 4,000 pounds. The Tesla's going to have that advantage because it has a higher weight.
Yeah. A thing to just to not get too wonky about this, but Car and Driver and a couple of the other car reviewer magazines out there have determined, like Teslas, for example, or even some of these other electrified cars, they can't really even rate them. And why I say that is because there's not enough accidents. So, for example, and the reason is because there's so much, and I talk to dealers about this, is that when you get a newer electrified car, there's so many more autonomous and safety features involved in the car that the likelihood of you crashing is way less than it's ever been before. As well as what Nolan was saying, the safety of an electric car is above and beyond what people think in comparison to a gas car. Fire code, if the car gets to a certain point, fire code will allow the battery packs to drop and hit the ground. So it makes it easier for a fire department to roll the car away and to extinguish the batteries if the batteries were to catch on fire. Again,
which is still very low chance.
Extremely low. It's extremely low. I remember I was going through a conversation about this in a conference call as I was driving down the thruway on Bluetooth, and as I'm driving down the road, I'm looking to the right, and I won't say what car it is, but there was an SUV that was on fire on the side.
Probably was a Jeep. Jeep's catching a lot of fire.
Yeah, of course it was.
I'm not going to say which one it jolly could have been, or anything like that, but
But that's a great point, and that's exactly the problem we have here, is that when in that very unlikely event that something happens to an EV, like its battery catches fire, it's national news. But because gasoline cars catch fire all the time, it stopped being news. So we have this bias, that we have this availability heuristic bias, where because we've heard something, we think it's more likely to happen. But that's not the case. That's not the case here.
Yeah, because Tesla, of course, any sort of accident on that car, it becomes the frontline news for 2 months. Oh my God, Tesla's this unsafe car. But you compare it to something equivalent to Tesla, like a BMW or a higher end Camry, and their statistical data is way higher for chances of death, and in crash worthiness tests, in the event of an accident, they are less safe.
Right.
So
and you can see Nolan's Tesla bias shining through right now, but Tesla makes very safe cars.
They do.
They do. But this is
So
we also know that the Chevy Bolt, by the way, just so Nolan is or the safety people are aware, You can drive a Chevy Bolt, and it will, if there's somebody in front of it, it will come to a complete stop on its own. A Chevy Bolt.
Most new cars do that. But for reasons that I can't figure out, electric cars just typically have more technology thrown in them.
Right.
So, like something like a Tesla, the thing basically drives itself down the highway, and if it detects a pedestrian or something, it will stop.
Yes.
Going like 60 miles an hour.
It helps for safety. It really helps for safety, and people should be aware that driving an electric car is way safer than they could possibly imagine.
Absolutely.
And there are more sensors on these cars, and they're as close to autonomous as you can without totally going over, right? You know, you're still driving the car, but they're really safe, and they're safer. And that's something that on a saving side, frankly, will help you on your insurance.
And to quickly wrap up, the Euro NCAP testing found that the Tesla Model X and Model 3 were the two safest cars they've ever evaluated, getting 98 overall percent and 99%.
Right. And this is to be extended to other EVs as well. I mean, we don't want this to sound as if Tesla is the only option there, but Nolan's right. Nolan is absolutely right. Tesla makes fantastic cars, but other EVs also test very highly on safety, like the
Kona,
Hyundai, e-trons. This is across the board.
Top safety pick plus.
Yes,
which is amazing.
All right, so we have like 24 minutes left, guys. So we gotta move along. Here's a chart that kind of it just does a summary of why you would want to purchase an EV, hitting some top pros and cons.
Sure. Well, you got the lower fuel costs, lower maintenance costs. Believe it or not, the value of these things overall, the value of them are staying pretty decently high. Of course, they're cleaner to run in the Hudson Valley, in the upper Hudson Valley. It's even cleaner than California when it comes to the grid. They're really quiet. You don't hear in comparison to a Ford Mustang, you don't hear it, right? And they're great for the planet. To be clear, it takes, when you build an electric car versus a gas car, it takes only a year to get rid of all of the emissions that you've created to create the car. With a gas car, it's perpetual.
You never make up.
You never make up. So, and their resale values go down very quickly on gas cars. So there's a lot of economic and environmental and energy efficiency based benefits when getting to an electric car. How does that help on the slide? Is that good?
That's great.
Can we move forward?
That's great.
That's great. We're going to move forward. Okay. So when is the right time to switch from a gas car to an EV? And this is actually coming from my personal perspective, because I just purchased a new Subaru Ascent not even 2 years ago. And now I'm thinking I want to go all electric, and I'm trying to justify doing that when I have basically a brand new car.
What I would say, Marcy, is that it's always the right time to switch from a gas car to an EV. Because, and this is an argument I've made to a few friends of mine who sometimes will say, I'm gonna drive my 2010 Prius to the ground before I buy the next electric car. And I say that no, you should. Now your case is slightly different, but I think a similar argument can be made where I say you shouldn't be driving your car to the ground. That's the job of some poor college student who cannot afford a new electric vehicle right now. If we are really going to look at this responsibly in terms of our children's future, our grandchildren's future, then if we have the means, we should buy an EV right now, because the old car that we sell, it's not going to be thrown in the garbage, right? Somebody's going to drive it to the ground, and the parts then will be used to manufacture new cars, right? Those parts will be reused. So it's always the right time to switch to an EV. There's never a wrong time to switch to it.
And in your case, Mom, your car still has value. It's
Yes.
not, and it hasn't reached that spot where, because I was figuring out there's a linear line and there's an exponential line, and the depreciation goes on the exponential line. So when the distance is the greatest, it does not make as much sense, and she's before the distance is the greatest. So in this case, you still have enough, you still have value, which means that it would still make financial sense.
Right,
Because
and
your car is
that's a
not
great
worth
point.
dirt.
That's a great point, that the longer you wait, Marcy, to sell that car, the less value you will get from the car. So if you
Yep.
can take advantage of the incentives, and once you factor in the savings that you'll get from buying an EV, once you factor all of that in, you can probably say that, you know what, it's time to sell my 2-year-old car.
Okay. All right. Now, so Seth, come back. I want you to talk about the Drive Electric Hudson Valley program and what that is. And
I didn't go anywhere. I'm
Okay.
just letting everybody speak. Okay, so Drive Electric Hudson Valley is a program that helps consumers, school districts, commercial, facilities, and industry get into electrified cars, period. We're really good at right now only because we've done a lot. We've helped over 360 people get into electrified cars, and I'm talking with a plug. So, and we're expanding now. We are now from Westchester up to Albany, and we have the support of NYSERDA. We've had the support of DOT, still do, and we work with a wide variety of agencies and entities to help basically anybody who wants to get into an electrified car. We're here to help you do it, period. And we've been around now since past 4 or 5 years, and we're going strong.
Great.
And it's due to the work really a lot. It all started with Sustainable Hudson Valley's efforts. And it's always great every year to see the Drive Electric program expanding into new towns and villages. And the last one I was at that I really enjoyed was the one in New Paltz. Samrat ran. He's the team captain for the Drive Electric Day rally in New Paltz. And it's great to see, if you let people just get involved in this, it's surprising. In this area, we have the most Drive Electric events for a single region than anywhere in the country.
Wow.
So what I mean by that is that if you were to take the Hudson Valley and make it one group of people, we have over 16 Drive Electric events now, and it started with 2.
Wow.
So yeah, we
Now,
started
Seth,
with 2, and now it's 16. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Does like NYSERDA and the program, do they have additional benefits like credits or something that you can use on top of the $2,000 state credit?
Well, there's a $2,000 rebate. They offer the tax credits for charging, for home charging, up to $1,500 to do that. But and they also do incentives for bus companies to replace their electric buses, truck companies to go all electric. So we're starting to get more into, and I'm starting to work more with not just light duty, but heavy duty as well in this program, which is exciting because then you get to replace buses and trucks and really dirty diesel thingies that are on the road, which is exciting. So I hope that answers your question. There are a lot of incentives still available for electric cars, as we mentioned before. So
Right.
I don't want to repeat myself.
Right. So just real quickly, because we'll just go through these slides so we can continue on. We have the New York State Drive Clean rebate up to $2,000 off, which is based on mileage and price point of the vehicle.
Yes.
And then you can go to this website that we've listed here and look up what type of car it is that you're interested in purchasing and see if there's a federal tax incentive associated with it.
And if you need help with any of this while you're going through your purchase, Drive Electric Hudson Valley is here to help you with that whole process. So I don't want to get into too much into the weeds per car or each incentive, but like we help you with the whole thing. And we're usually also good at getting additional discounts on top of the ones that you get out there. So, because I try and make a call to the car companies and say, hey, help me out, help my friend out. So we put in a little extra push.
Great. What do you guys think about the used EV market? I mean,
It's growing.
older
I
battery
think-
technology worth doing?
Yes. I think it is the next logical step for getting people into an electric car. Because there are so many different used cars, as we were saying before, that are now electrified, that if you could provide a $2,000 or $3,000 rebate, imagine how many more people would get into electrified cars like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
And
talking.
these deals. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You know, you're talking about a Prius Prime. If it cost you, you know, if it's a $20,000 Prius Prime and somebody puts a $3,000 difference on it, that's $17,000 for the car. So that we've been talking about that as a policy push, possibly to get discounts for used electric cars, especially given that there's so much, which is ironic, there's so much push towards environmental justice, but there's no incentives toward it as much. So this is one of those incentives toward environmental justice to deal with the economics of the cars and to really bring it down for people that need to afford an electric car.
And there are states out there that currently do offer incentives for used ones. I believe it's California, Washington, Florida. There's a few other ones.
Yeah, we
Right.
have to be next. It's time.
Yeah,
right.
it would be great.
And like,
So, okay.
sorry, go ahead.
I think this is the one thing I hear from a lot of people is that they don't want to get a full EV or even a plug-in because they're scared they're going to run out of battery somewhere and they're not going to be able to charge it. And they don't want to be stuck on the road without having a battery charge. That's the whole scarcity mindset of being scared of that.
Right.
So,
Can I address that right off the bat?
yeah, go.
Okay, when you're in an electric car, after you get to a certain range, the car starts to tell you, hey, it's time to charge. You want to know where there's a fueling station near you? Then it will direct you. So I hear everybody's concern, but what happens when you're in an electric car is it usually takes about maybe a week and you get used to it. You get to figuring it out. And then the idea of charging doesn't become, shall we say, a four-letter word. It becomes something that's not this difficult task. And ironically, there might be a charging station closer to you than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get free power more than you know.
Good.
Right. And I think the key thing is that I don't think anyone should be, like Seth said, nobody should think that this is not going to be a little bit of a learning curve. If I said driving an electric car was just like driving a gas car, I'd be lying on two fronts. Firstly, driving an electric car is better than driving a gas car. But secondly, you'll need a little bit of a lifestyle switch where you will need to pay attention to, say, your battery level more than you would have paid attention to your how much gas do you have in your car. But like Seth said, once it's been a week, 10 days, you will get into that mode and it's much simpler than most people think.
All right. So here on this slide, we show a level 1 and a level 2 charge. These are charging that you can do at home on a 110 volt or a 240 volt.
Right.
This is,
And 240 is like a dryer plug. Let's just keep it
Right.
simple for people.
Right.
It's the same juice as a dryer plug. So
Do you
I'll
have
leave
to
it
have
at
one of these special apparatuses we see here on the left side of the screen, or can you just have that outlet, that 240 outlet, and just plug straight into it?
Most
I
cars
have-
come with. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go first, Summer, please.
So most cars will come with a portable charger. I mean, not most cars. All electric cars come with a portable charger. Sometimes they will not have a connector to connect to the 240 volt, like, and then you just buy it on as an add-on, like a $35-40 thing. But
Okay.
on the left, the picture that you see, that's an example of a portable charger that comes with electric cars, and you can plug it into a 110 outlet if you have, I mean, which we all have, or a 240 if you have one. So you don't have to set up that EV charging station that people see in places. You're not going to build that at home. All you need to do is get some minimal electric work done, which can of course be a few $100s, but you're not spending thousands of dollars to do that.
Okay, great. All right, guys, we're going to spend about a minute on each of our next slides. So here we go. We've got DC fast chargers. Who wants to quickly say something about them?
I
I'll go.
will. Okay, well, Nolan.
So DC fast chargers are also known, well, Tesla calls them superchargers. They're the exact same thing. In 1 hour, you can charge an average vehicle about 300 to 500 miles on a faster one. They can charge up to 350 kilowatt hours. They're ideal for long trips or quick top-offs. And there's quite a few different networks like Electrify America, Tesla, EVgo, and ChargePoint.
Cool. All right, and if you go to Tesla's website, you can actually pull up their supercharger network, and you'll see it's pretty extensive.
And this is
I'll
what
just
people
leave
don't
with
realize.
one last
Yeah.
point,
Yeah, go ahead.
that the car companies are working to accelerate fast charging rates. So inevitably, it will be even half the time that it is now to charge up a car. Just people should think about their electric car like they think about their cell phone. Yeah, I remember the days of the StarTAC or the days of a big lead acid battery, but nowadays our iPhones or our cell phones are lithium based battery technology. They are last longer. They have more technology inside of them. They're more intelligent. And all of those things, when you think about that, those are the same kind of things you can think about in an electric car. It's all the same kind of things. And even Tesla is doing what we're doing now with phones, which is updating them on the cloud.
Yeah.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah.
I always try and tell people, if you take your phone and you hold it flat, and if you imagine you put 4 wheels on it, I mean, that's what the future really is when it comes to an electric car. You put your car on top, and inevitably that's going to be the future of electrified cars, which is everything in all-in-one on the bottom and build everything around it. So
right.
That's what we're going to be calling a skateboard. Anyway.
Cool. Let's talk about cost to charge real quick.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is such a great slide you have there. This is really nice for people to see in terms of efficiency of the cars. Like, and that's something to consider when buying a car. Like, when people usually focus on the battery packs or how many miles can I go, but efficiency is also something to look at, because a more efficient car, like if you look at a Model 3, they're being more efficient than, say, Volkswagen e-Golf. You might have to run some calculation to see that maybe in the longer run, given the amount of driving I do and that I do have to pay for electricity, it might make sense for me to buy a Model 3 versus an e-Golf. So that's something one should definitely look into when one is buying an EV. But on the right, as you say, it's just stunning how cheap it is to drive electric cars. Like, for $1 on average, you can go 30-35 miles. That means, right, what's the price of gas right now? $2, which it's not going to get any lower than that, which means you'd go about 60-70 miles. That's incredible.
Yeah, what's funny is, and I tweeted this out, Samrat, was uh, Jim Cramer. We know Jim Cramer, right? He did a tweet saying, "I don't get it. I thought gas prices being so low would hurt electric cars." So I tweeted back, "Jim, you just don't get it. 99 miles a gallon will always beat 25." And then he did it again. He goes, "I still don't get it." I go, "Jim, you just don't get it. Even 99 miles a gallon will always beat even 35 miles a gallon.
Right.
Any day of the week." So
Right.
people are buying, they're buying for not just efficiency, but if you get anybody into an, as Nolan would love me to say right now, a Tesla, I mean, the torque on those puppies is there's let me give an expression that people always use, and I'll try and explain it. Electric cars have 100% torque at 0 RPM, which basically means that before you even put your foot on the pedal, that car is ready to haul butt and go fast. And people don't really wrap their head around it until you go into ludicrous mode from 0 to 60. Then they really get it. It's and the people that also get it are the ones, you'll appreciate this to Samrat. This gentleman I met once at a Tesla store who had just bought a Model X. It's a performance 90 kilowatt dual motor. And all he could scream about to me was not the fuel efficiency, not the size of the car, not the bells, not the whistles, but he was able to blow past a $250,000 Porsche going from one traffic light to another. And that made him go like, when somebody's got the bug on electric cars, and I know people that don't have an electric car don't know what I'm talking about, but you get this thing like where you go, my car is better than yours. You don't even know. Like they just get this jazzed up feeling. It's like you're going from a Hyundai to on speed to Lamborghini style speed. I mean, there's no comparison, and it's also safer, and it's also when you have a Model X too.
Right. That's the key thing. That it's,
issues,
right.
It's just safer.
It offers you just so. I mean, EVs, and I think the main thing to stress here is that the EVs offer us so much. I mean, and to me, the top priority is in the environment. So if I start there and then go down the list, whether it's the environment, fuel savings, less maintenance, the joy and pleasure of driving, and then the ability to gloat, which Seth was talking about just now, right? They offer you all of those.
All right, I'm gonna rein you guys in. I'm gonna say this one's real quick. Pair an EV with solar for your greatest savings, because you can do the tax incentives for both, and you can charge your vehicle at home. That's kind of a no-brainer.
It really, when the simple thing is here, 60% of people that get an electric car usually get solar at the same time, and I recommend energy storage because and yeah, you get all of those tax credits. So if you're not in getting into a Tesla, you're getting into a car, like I said, that has the full tax credits. You can get $7,500. You can get as many rebates as there still are available for solar. There's not many anymore, but the savings is phenomenal. I was explaining before to the panel that my power was out for 5 hours due to the storms and everything going on nowadays. And I had a past due and then this bill coming forward, right? The bill that was due now. So 2 months, and my total bill from Con Ed was $16.
Crazy.
On the screen.
All right, real quick, we got 30 seconds. Future battery technology, there's some real cool stuff coming out. Do you wait? Yes, no?
That's
Never
straight
wait.
no.
No.
All right. Future electric vehicles. We got some cool ones coming out.
Cybertruck.
I love the Volkswagen minibus. I would
Me
love
too.
to
That's
have
what I
that.
want.
Yes.
That's what I want. All right, and here you go.
Cybertruck.
Contact information for anybody if you want to get in touch with these guys or myself. There
Yes,
you go.
please do.
Thank you
Please
so
do.
much
Please, anybody.
for coming today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcy. This is awesome.
Thank
That's
Marcy. Thank you. Really.
Sign it
Thank
off.
you.
Bye-bye.
Let's do this again.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.